My best friend called me 3 days before the closing and said, "You should really let Gordon handle this one." I asked her why. She said I was too emotional. What she didn't know, what neither of them knew, was that I had already been to the county recorder's office, and my name was the only one on that deed. Good day, dear listeners. It's Lena again, and I'm so glad you're here with me today. Before we begin, please take a moment to subscribe to the channel and tap the like button. It helps these stories reach the people who need them. And tell me in the comments which city you're listening from. I love seeing just how far these stories travel. There is a kind of betrayal that arrives in a soft voice. The betrayal that calls itself concern, that frames itself as looking out for you, that asks whether you're really sure you want to handle this yourself. I had known Jocelyn Mercer for 20 years. I had been at her wedding. I had helped her move 3 times. When she called me 3 days before the closing and told me, gently, that Gordon should probably handle it, I already knew what she and Gordon had been doing. What she did not know was how long I had known and what I had done about it. My name is Lenora Bassett, and I was 41 years old when my best friend tried to help my husband take a property that had been mine since before he knew my name. Let me tell you about how I got started, because it matters. I built my catering company on 2 folding tables in my mother's driveway in Louisville. I was 23 years old and had $800 in savings and a conviction that I could cook better than most people and organize better than almost anyone. I started with birthday parties and small office lunches, and within 4 years I had a reputation in the Louisville metro for reliable, excellent food at a fair price. By 2009, when I was 26, I had enough revenue to look at commercial space. The Bardstown Road property was a former dry cleaner, a freestanding building in a commercial corridor of Louisville's Highlands neighborhood, 3,000 square feet with a loading dock, good bones, and a landlord who was willing to sell at a price I could finance. I purchased it alone in 2009, in my name only, before I had met Gordon Bassett, before I had any idea what the next decade would look like. I used my business savings for the down payment, $67,000. I qualified for the mortgage on my own income. I renovated the space over 18 months, my catering operation in one section, 2 tenant spaces in the remainder. I leased the tenants and managed the building myself. It was the best financial decision I had ever made, and the decision I had made most completely alone. Gordon and I married in 2014. He was 41, a commercial real estate agent, good-looking, confident, with the particular assurance of someone who has been in the industry long enough to believe he understands all property situations. He assumed, because he was a real estate agent and I was his wife, that he understood everything about our shared property life. He began referring to our Bardstown property in conversations. I did not correct him because the correction was technical and the relationship was new, and because I understood that the deed was the correction, and the deed was already recorded. In 2019, we refinanced the Bardstown Road building. The new lender required Gordon to sign a joint tenancy release, a standard form for non-titled spouses, required to confirm that the non-titled spouse has no claim on the property and is not using it as collateral. Gordon signed it at the title company's office on a Thursday afternoon, joking that he trusted me. The joke was accurate. He trusted me. He signed. I kept the recorded copy in the fireproof box on the second shelf of my home office closet. The first warning sign arrived in the form of questions. In the months before the closing, before I had announced my intention to sell the Bardstown property, before any of this was formally in motion, Jocelyn had begun asking me things she had never asked before. What was the square footage of the building? What was the rental income history? Had I talked to any buyers? She framed these as the natural curiosity of a friend, which I had always found Jocelyn's questions to be. But the pattern was wrong. The questions followed a sequence. They were gathering specific information. I noted this without naming it. The second warning was documentary. I was looking for a shared grocery list document on Gordon's laptop. He had left it open on the kitchen counter, and the screen was on his messages. Jocelyn's name. The most recent message from her. She hasn't listed it yet. Still thinks you don't know the assessed value. I read it twice. I closed the laptop and went to the kitchen for the glass of water I had originally gone for, and I drank it standing at the counter, and I thought about what I had just seen. Then I went to my office, opened my phone, and photographed the message through the kitchen window using the laptop's screen reflection, which gave me a partial image. Clear enough. Dated. Jocelyn's name visible. I called Anita Desai the next morning. Anita was my attorney, real estate and contract law, 53 years old, economical with words in the specific way of someone who charges by the hour and has found that most situations require fewer words than people think. She had represented me on the original purchase in 2009 and on the 2019 refinance. She knew the property's history completely. When I told her what I had seen on Gordon's laptop, she asked one question. "What do you want to happen with the property?" I said I wanted to sell it and receive the full proceeds. She said, "Then that's what will happen. Come in Thursday." She pulled the Jefferson County recorder records before I arrived. The chain of title was exactly what I knew it to be. The 2009 deed in my name only, the 2019 joint tenancy release with Gordon's signature, the refinanced mortgage in my name. Gordon's name appeared nowhere as an owner, as a co-mortgager, or as a trustee. The release he had signed confirmed that he had relinquished any potential claim arising from marital cohabitation. It was recorded. It was unambiguous. Anita also contacted Petra Thalman. Petra was my former neighbor, 67 years old, a retired accountant who had lived next door to my mother's house when I was growing up, and who had, in 2009, witnessed and notarized the original purchase closing documents as a favor to me and to my mother. She was a notary public by license and had been present at the signing as both witness and notary. When Anita explained what she needed, Petra said she would provide a sworn affidavit confirming my sole signature at acquisition, and that she would appear at the closing if needed. She did not wait to be asked twice. She began drafting the affidavit that afternoon. In the meantime, I went to the county recorder's office myself. I drove to the Jefferson County Government Center on a Wednesday morning and stood at the public records terminal and pulled the certified abstract of title for the Bardstown Road property. I ran my finger over my own name in the recorded deed. Then I found the 2019 release, Gordon's signature, notarized, recorded. I printed both documents. I stood in the county records office for a moment, holding the printouts, the fluorescent light overhead, the clerk at the next station helping someone with a different inquiry. I felt the particular steadiness of someone who has done the paperwork correctly and is now simply waiting for the paperwork to do its work. 3 days before the closing, Jocelyn called. She said she was just checking in. How was I feeling about the transaction? It was a lot of money. Had I thought about whether I really needed to be at the closing personally? Gordon had such a strong professional background in real estate. She just wanted to make sure I wasn't making things harder on myself than they needed to be. She said, "You should really let Gordon handle this one." I said, "Thank you, Jocelyn. I'll see you Thursday." She said there was no need for me to be there if it was stressful. I said, "I'll see you Thursday." I ended the call. The closing was at the buyer's attorney's office in Louisville, the 14th floor of a building on 4th Street, with a view of the Ohio River that I had always thought was probably good on a clear day. October morning, the river brown and wide and slow, the kind of day that smells of river mud and coming weather. I was already seated when Gordon and Jocelyn arrived together. Jocelyn presented herself as a support person, there for Gordon, she said, in case the process got complicated. Her tone was that of someone who has been told to expect a negotiation and has arrived ready to manage me. The buyer's attorney went through the title documents. Gordon interrupted at the point where he expected to assert co-ownership, the moment he had been planning for, the moment he and Jocelyn had been engineering. He said, "Before we proceed, I want to confirm that my signature will be required on the transfer documents, as co-owner." He said it with the authority of a commercial real estate agent who knows the vocabulary and expects it to carry weight. Anita placed 2 documents on the table. She did not announce them. She set them down and let the buyer's attorney read them. The certified recorder's abstract, sole name, 2009, my signature only. The recorded joint tenancy release, Gordon's signature, notarized, 2019. The buyer's attorney read both. He looked at Gordon. He looked at me. He continued with the closing. Gordon said, very quietly, that there must be a mistake. Anita said, "The documents are from the Jefferson County Clerk's office. They're certified copies." Gordon looked at the release. He found his own signature. He read the document's purpose statement, which was unambiguous about what a joint tenancy release means. He looked at Jocelyn. Jocelyn looked at the table. Petra Thalmann arrived 12 minutes into the closing, not because she was needed by then, but because Anita believes in being thorough and had asked her to come. Petra produced her affidavit from a cream-colored envelope and set it on the table. Gordon's name appeared nowhere in Petra's recollection of the 2009 closing. It had appeared nowhere in 2009. It did not appear in the recorder's abstract. It did not appear in the documents in front of him. Anita set the final transfer documents in front of me. I signed alone, as I always had. The closing proceeded. I signed the transfer documents with the Ohio River behind me and the ink still wet, and the only thing I thought about was my mother's driveway, 2 folding tables, $800, the beginning of everything I had built without anyone's permission or assistance. Gordon and Jocelyn left the closing separately. Gordon's real estate license was still active when he walked out of that room. I do not know what he has done with the knowledge of what the release he signed meant. I do not spend time on that question. Jocelyn and I have not spoken since the closing. 20 years of friendship ended in the space of a phone call in which she told me I was too emotional to handle my own business. She was not wrong that I felt something. She was wrong about what I would do with it. I built the catering business on 2 folding tables. I bought the building before I knew Gordon's name. When I signed the deed on the 14th floor, with the Ohio River below me and Anita beside me, and Petra's affidavit on the table, I thought about my mother's driveway and how far it had always been from anyone else's permission. That distance had been mine to travel. It had always been mine. Know what you hold, dear listeners. Know whose name is on the deed. Do the work before you need it. And when someone tells you that you're too emotional to manage your own affairs, stay calm, stay present, let the documents speak. They always speak clearly. What would you have done when Jocelyn called from the Moth? Would you have confronted her in that moment, or done what I did? Tell me in the comments. Share this story with someone who needs to hear it. Thank you for listening. Let me tell you more about the building and about what I built in it, dear listeners. Because the Bardstown Road property is not just a legal instrument. It is the physical evidence of 15 years of work. I had renovated the former dry cleaner over 18 months, from 2009 to 2011. The work was mostly done by contractors I hired and managed myself, with a construction manager I found through the Louisville Commercial Real Estate Network. I had not known anything about construction management before this project. By the end of it, I knew enough to evaluate bids, read a change order, and understand the difference between a structural issue and a cosmetic one. That knowledge cost me time and some expensive mistakes, and has saved me money on every property question I have encountered since. The catering operation took the largest section of the building, the kitchen, the preparation area, the loading dock that I used for catering van access. I had the kitchen built out to commercial specifications: hood ventilation, 3-compartment sink, walk-in refrigeration, the particular arrangement of prep surfaces that makes high-volume production efficient. I had spent a year working in a commercial kitchen before I started my own operation, and I knew exactly what I needed and why. The build-out cost $89,000. I paid it from the business's operating income over 2 years. The 2 tenant spaces I had initially rented to a graphic design firm and a physical therapy practice. The graphic design firm was there for 6 years. The physical therapy practice is still there, the same tenant, paying rent reliably, the kind of long-term tenancy that makes a commercial building work. Over the 15 years I owned the Bardstown Road building, it generated $1.4 million in gross rental income from the tenant spaces, at rates that I reviewed and adjusted annually, based on the Louisville commercial market. Gordon had known the building generated rental income. He had never asked me for the specific figures. He had referred to our Bardstown property in conversations without knowing what the asset was worth, which is a form of carelessness that I find more illustrative than any deliberate dishonesty. The buyer was a restaurant group that had been looking for a Highlands location for 2 years. They had a specific vision for the space and the resources to execute it. The purchase price was $1.15 million. Anita had negotiated the final terms: standard commercial closing terms, clean title transfer, the buyer's lender satisfied by the certified abstract. The closing took 90 minutes from start to finish. The wires cleared the same afternoon. I had a conversation with my mother after the closing. She had known about the building since 2009, had been present when I signed the original purchase documents in Petra Thalmann's living room, the three of us at her kitchen table with the paperwork spread out and Petra's notary stamp ready. My mother had said nothing at the time except, "Are you sure?" And then, "All right then," when I said yes. She had not said anything more critical than that about any financial decision I had ever made. When I told her the building had sold for $1.15 million and that the money was in my account and that the closing had proceeded exactly as I had planned, she said, "I told your grandmother you'd be fine." I said, "You did?" She said, "She worried." I said, "She didn't need to." My mother said, "No, she didn't." That conversation was worth more to me than the $1.15 million, which is something I understand without needing to be sentimental about it. Anita's bill for the closing work, the recorder's abstract, the consultation, her presence at the closing, the follow-up correspondence, was $4,200. The most efficient $4,200 I have ever spent. She had, as I said, been my attorney since the original purchase. She knew the property's full history. She needed to confirm what she already knew and produce it at the right moment. She did both. The hour of preparation and 15 years of professional relationship were worth exactly what they were worth. There is a lesson in that ratio. Jocelyn's finder's fee arrangement with Gordon, the specific expectation that she would be compensated for bringing him into a transaction she had been helping him navigate, was not something I confronted directly. I did not need to. The transaction concluded without Gordon's involvement. Jocelyn received nothing, because there was nothing for her to have received. The arrangement between them was made irrelevant by the recorded deed and the joint tenancy release, which Jocelyn had not known about. She had been engineering something that had been impossible since 2009, and more impossibly confirmed impossible since 2019. The full picture of her situation arrived to her at the closing table, when the buyer's attorney set down the documents. She looked at the table for a long time. She did not look at me. Then she stood and left. I have thought about Jocelyn many times since the closing. 20 years is a long friendship. We had known each other since our first year of college, had stood in each other's weddings, had been each other's first calls in difficult situations. I do not know when she made the decision to help Gordon in the way she helped him. I do not know what she expected to gain. I know what she expected of me. That I would be manageable, that my emotions would make me pliable, that I would be easier to steer than to respect. She was wrong about all of it. The building is someone else's now, and I am glad it is. I built it, I held it, I sold it on my own terms, and the money is mine. The catering company continues. I have a commercial kitchen lease in a different part of Louisville, a good team, a client list that has grown steadily for 15 years. I still build things. I still organize them. I still know what I hold. My mother's driveway is in Shively, on the west side of Louisville, behind a white house with a chain-link fence and a maple tree that was 20 years old when I set up my folding tables in 1997. The tree is 43 years old now. I drove past it recently on the way to a catering event. The driveway is still there. The table is not. I donated it years ago when I outgrew it. But the beginning is still there, in the way that beginnings stay. You can go back and look at them. They don't change. Let me tell you about the Wednesday before the closing, dear listeners. I had gone to the county recorder's office on a Wednesday morning, pulled the certified abstract, and stood in the fluorescent light of the records room holding the printout. I had already known what it would say. I had gone anyway, because there is a difference between knowing something and holding the certified copy of it. And the difference matters when you are about to walk into a room with someone who is expecting you to be uncertain. I was not uncertain. I was never uncertain. I had purchased the Bardstown Road property alone, and had maintained it alone for 15 years, and had refinanced it with Gordon's signature on a release form that he had signed without reading. And every one of those facts was in the public record, certified and retrievable by anyone who went to the 4th floor of the Jefferson County Government Center and sat down at the public records terminal. The fact that Gordon had not done this, that a commercial real estate agent had spent 5 years referring to our Bardstown property without once pulling the title, was the central irony of the situation, and it was entirely of his making, Anita had said when I thanked her after the closing. You did the work in 2009. I just brought the papers. She was being modest, as she sometimes is. She had also brought the papers at exactly the right moment and had placed them on the table with exactly the right degree of calm. But she was right that the essential work had been done years before in the ordinary course of buying a building and recording the deed and being the only person in the transaction. That is where the story was written. Everything else was reading it aloud.